All right, we are now recording. Thank you to everyone. This is the Back to Basics webinar where we're going to talk enterprise reporting. Let me start out with my normal disclaimer to say we are using a sandbox server full of fake students and fake information. We are not going to be sharing any real information, so all data that you see in here is all imaginary fake data we have entered. Any likeness to any person is purely coincidental in this situation. So enterprise reporting, this is one of the things that we here in Alabama have really become reliant on when it comes to reports inside of PowerSchool. We are lucky enough to have a team here. Most of you know Scott Booth, who is our enterprise reports developer, and basically we take all the recommendations of the things that y'all want to be able to pull out of here and make them in an easy way for you to extract that data out. And we are always taking suggestions. You notice that in my Monday newsletters, we always have new reports, update reports, all kinds of information for you in there. So what we're going to do today is really talk about the functionality of that enterprise reports page, dive a little into enterprise reports. We're not really talking about building them out because that's a whole different conversation with some SQL knowledge that you would have to know, but we want you to understand how the enterprise reports page works, how to install them, how to update them, who can see them, and how you can modify the page. So let's start off first by looking at enterprise reporting and what it is. So enterprise reports is an area that you can get to in district office and at school level that is under data and reporting and reports. And we'll notice we have this subsection here of enterprise reports. Now the enterprise reports page itself looks very different district from district because you as a district kind of get to control, number one, which reports you install for your users and which category you get to put these reports under. So notice here, I have an attendance section, lots of reports, a counselor section, few reports, discipline and incidents, enrollment, grades, help, list, principals, schedules, special education. There are there's another section for fees and fee balances, but we don't use any of that in our sandbox server, so we don't have any of those set up. Now, you as a district, when you install enterprise reports, get to determine which one of these categories the enterprise report lies under. Now, a couple of questions that we get quite often. Stacy, can we add more categories in here? Unfortunately, that answer is no. These categories are hard-coded by PowerSchool, so there's no way for us to add an additional category to these. And a lot of people ask that because you can control each one of these categories through security roles. So you as a district admin get to say who in what user role has access to this subcategory of reports when it comes to this page right here. Now, one thing that you can do is repurpose categories that are already in there. And this actually was a topic in an email chain this morning. So I want to show you how you can do that. So for example, I don't use the fees category that is in here. When we go to add a report, these are the different categories that we can place reports under. So if I don't have any reports up under a section, you won't see that section over here on the page. But maybe I don't use fee and fee balance because maybe I have some kind of third party that I use for my fees. Maybe I want that to really say federal programs, or I want that to say registrar because I want to put a certain number of reports up under there for this certain group of people. Well, you can rename these through the localization feature that is inside of PowerSchool. So let's start off by telling you how you can localize those names if you want to. So I'm going to come up here into the quick search because that is my favorite place to go look. I'm going to type in the word local and I'm going to see localized PowerSchool. Now, localization is where you can go and change names of things. It's just basically a text mask that just gives you a different view of the names. So when you come into Localized PowerSchool, you're going to have 3 tabs up here at the top. You're going to click on Data. Once this page loads, it takes just a second or two today. Let's hope that it stays stable. My server actually went down earlier this morning. All right, once it loads, you're going to come in here to the functional area that you want to translate. Well, there's only one option right here. So you're going to choose this PowerSchool customer defined data. And then for the category, you are going to scroll down to Enterprise Reporting Category Name. And by the way, guys, I do have chat open, so if y'all have any questions along the way, y'all feel free to throw those in chat and we'll answer them. I'm monitoring it while we're working through. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit Retrieve Text. So notice these are the same names that you just saw in that drop-down list when I was on the Enterprise Reports page. Now, this page is not very intuitive in how you update it because there's not an ad, there's not an edit or anything like that. But basically what I can do is in this translated text area, if I want these categories to be called something else, because maybe I don't want a category that's called enrollment, or maybe I don't want this fees and fee balance. Maybe I want it to be federal programs, so I can put all those migrant and immigrant and EL reports all up under there. Then I want to come over here into this area, and you're just going to click in this box right here, and notice it opens up a text field when you do. So let's say, oops, take my caps lock off. I want this, instead of it to say fees, fee balance, I want it to read federal programs. Maybe instead of counselors, I want to have registrars. Maybe instead of principals, I want to have XYZ. Whatever you would like to rename these to repurpose them, this is where you would do it. Once you get your names renamed, you'll hit submit. And it's probably going to take a second for it to load again. Just know we have wait time in education. While we're waiting, have any of y'all taken advantage of the localization opportunity to change the names of these categories if you needed, let's say, different ones? Not yet. I know a lot of y'all have been asking. I saw that on the listserv this morning. So we've got that changed. So now if I go back to data and reporting and reports and enterprise reports. Now remember, I didn't have a fees category. If I did, it would go ahead and change the name here. But I'll notice that now it doesn't have fees. It has federal programs. So if I had a new report that I wanted to install, notice I do have some to be updated here. I would just choose that as my new header. So you can absolutely change the headers that have there, but we just can't add any additional ones. That is a request we've had. Multiple people have had to PowerSchool, but until they change the coding on the back side of this page, this is what we've got. So now, that is how you can look at how this page looks in the categories that you put in there. Now, where does all of the access to these come from? So this is going to come in your security setup. So in system management security, in your user roles, inside of user access, this is where you have your defined roles that you place upon individual users within your district. Some of us have created roles for, attendance, for counselors, for admins, for, APs, principals, registrars, whoever, or task-based. Each one of these roles has, and I'm going to come up here to district administrator, a tab for enterprise reporting. Notice it here. There are two main things that you want to think about when it comes to giving access to enterprise reporting. Number one, who do you want to manage it? So right now I have the district admin role set to be the manager of enterprise reports. You as a district get to determine which one of your roles gets to assume that manage enterprise report rights. What that does is give you access, and I'm just going to pop a secondary tab open here. We'll flip back and forth between the pages. When I'm on the enterprise reports page, if you have a role assigned to you as a user that has that manage enterprise reports checkbox, that means you have access to this add button right here. You can add reports in. So notice I've got some reports in queue that are ready to be added. So if I know I needed to add in this new all day absence report, I can choose it. I can choose which group I want it in, and I can actually publish it. And now I have this report listed right here. As a manager, I can remove reports. So let's say I don't want this report to be published any longer. I can hit this little minus button right here. It says, hey, this will remove it from enterprise reporting in this list. It does not remove it over from Oracle in Apex, however. So if I remove it, basically all it does is it adds it back up here to the queue where I can then add it back in and republish it if I need to. It also gives me this little pencil where I can go in and do some editing. So if I put it under attendance, but now I've created this new, federal programs group, maybe I want it to be under there instead because you can only have it under one category at a time. Or I can add some kind of description to it. So if I wanted to put some XYZ description in here, I could to give my users a little bit of definition of what these reports are about, and then I could save. So having the manage enterprise reports role allows you to do that functionality right there. It allows you that if reports have been installed into Apex, you can install those reports over into your view. You get to decide which category it goes in. Now, the second area of management is going to be this right here, which is the view access to these reports. So there's two areas that you have to think about access to get your users to be able to see this list of reports right here. First and foremost, this is a page. This is a page in the flyout, so you would have to look at your page permissions and make sure the user that you are wanting is in a security group that has access to this page. So the first thing you'll want to check is page permissions for the enterprise reports page altogether. That gets them to this page. Now, to get them to view any of these subcategory of reports, they would also need a user role that dictates which one of these reports you want them to have. So let me scroll down to another group. So let's say that I have this security group or security role, excuse me, of attendance clerk. So these are all of my users who put attendance in on students. In this case, when it comes to enterprise reporting, I don't want them to be the manager. They're not the one that's going to be making the decisions of publishing the reports and which categories they go under. However, I do want them to be able to view reports. So in these areas down here, you have options. You can either click this box up here at the top, which will give them access to all of the categories, because maybe you have school admins, principals who need to see all of the data on that they can pull out of the reports, or maybe in this case it is just that one user group and you only need to see the attendance reports or anything you put under attendance, or maybe attendance and list or attendance and schedules. You can then choose which one or more groups of reports they are allowed to see on this page right here. So by checking these boxes, if I only check these two boxes right here, then when I log in as an attendance clerk, I'm only going to see any reports that have been placed under the attendance category, or in this case, I also check scheduling, so it would be anything in that scheduling category as well. So you control what your users see through those user roles. And that's really all there is to set up how your users view this page and what reports they can run. Now, the big question is, how do you even get reports to this area right here? What kind of reports can I put in this area right here? Well, I think everybody in our state should be familiar with our spreadsheet that we have where we list all of the enterprise reports that we have built out. Some of you have even taken it a step further and have started to learn how to build your own enterprise reports for your district, which are great. But we do have this resource here in this spreadsheet, and I'll throw this link into chat so that you can have it if you want to bookmark it. It's also located on the Alabama PowerSchool website. But down here at the bottom is our tab titled Enterprise Reports. So when you're looking at this report, it is a list of all of our reports in alphabetical order that have been created that you as a district can install. Now, some of these you might be like, Mom, we don't need that one. Some of them, every district will have installed. It really depends and is up to you on which one of these you would like to see in there. I'll be honest, it's a lot of reports. We were around 150, probably, oh, we're way over 150 now. I've got a list of 172, when you take out those two rows of headers, reports inside of here. Any of these that are ALSDE are the ones that we have created here at the State Department that we put out there for you to see. Now, with these reports, you're going to see when they were either added or last updated. If they were updated, what was updated in there, because sometimes we have bug fixes, sometimes we're adding enhancements to the report, things such as that. We have the download file. So this is the actual SQL file that you will have to install into Apex to make these reports viewable for your users. We also try to give you a preview link so that you can see what the report looks like before you install it to see is it the type of report you think that it is and is going to give you the data that you want. And then we give you the set of directions. So if you've never installed a report into Apex before, it does give you a step-by-step guide of how to, oh, we're not going to worry about signing into Google, but it will give you the step-by-step guide, which we're going to walk through here as well, of how to get these reports into Apex. Now, it used to be that we all had to kind of monitor this report right here, and this is a spreadsheet, so a lot of people go into notification settings right here and will edit notifications to say, hey, notify me immediately if Stacy comes in here and changes a cell. Well, we did that for about 2 years until Russ, who is another one of our developers, came up with a nice little plugin that we can install. So on this same spreadsheet on the plugins and Power Queries is, let me close out of that, the ALSDE Alabama Edition help. So it's on line 10 right here. This plugin right here gives us kind of a monitoring status page, if you want to say, of all of our enterprise and reports and plugins that we have developed here in the state for you all. What it does is it adds to this little question mark an Alabama Edition link. Now, preface, this link does not show on just any page that you are on inside of PowerSchool SIS. It's going to show when you're on the enterprise reports page, and it will show when you're on the main page. But if you're on like random demographic of a student, it's not going to show on that linkage. So we kind of kept it to the pertinent pages that you would have access to that would have something to do with these enterprise reports. So what this page is it allows you to come in here and choose what you want to do a comparison of, whether you want to look at enterprise reports or plugins and kind of do a monitoring status of it. So if I choose enterprise reports, it's going to actually read all of the data that is on this spreadsheet. So any report that has been added to this spreadsheet adds to this report name right here. It will tell you. So for example, I've got this report here that says it's not been installed, it's not published, and there's no update. Now there are 3 buttons over here. So if I say, oh, I don't have this one installed and I want to install it, I don't have to now come back to this report spreadsheet to get the linked file. I can come right here, hit download, and it will bring that file to my downloads folder so I can go into Apex and install it. I also can read the picture from here. So if I had a preview page of what that report looked like, it would go in here. And if I have any questions about it, of how to do this installation, those help documents that are in that last column of that spreadsheet are pulled to that page as well. So it gives us kind of a status point. I can look to say, okay, was there any that has been added this week that's not been installed? So if I click on the not installed, it filters them, and now I'm looking at all the reports that I have not installed that are new out there. So for example, this athlete dragonfly check is a new report that we made you aware of in the newsletter on Monday that we have now created that might be of benefit for y'all who have athletes that want to look at their grades to see who didn't have a course number added to the grade or who doesn't have the right credit type added to a historical grade, which means Dragonfly is not going to read it correctly to determine eligibility. Behavior compliance, CTE honors, all kinds of new reports inside of there. I can also filter, I can click off, I can say what has updates. So if I click on the updates, I'll notice, yes, I have this CTE declaration and credentials check. It is installed, it is published, but there is an update because the update button has now populated. So I might want to come over here and download this one to install here in the future. So this page gives us an easy way to see what reports are out there that you might want to install without having to go out to an external area to get that report in there. Now, once you have identified the reports that you would like to see installed in your server, how do you get them into PowerSchool? Well, this is a separate set of permissions. This is going to be on an individual user because reports are actually developed and installed in the Apex application that we have. This kind of a side rider to PowerSchool SIS. Apex is an Oracle product. It is not a PowerSchool product. And I will say this, PowerSchool supports the use of enterprise reports. They do not support Apex because it's not their product. A lot of people ask Scott very often, how did he learn how to build all of these reports? Well, yes, you can go and take a few classes at PSU. They kind of show you how to do very basic spreadsheet creation with these reports. But Scott will tell you, he went and took a class from Oracle on the use of Apex and that application itself. Because once you learn how to use Apex, you can then use the features of Apex that PowerSchool has made available to us in SIS to develop the reports off of the tables that we have access to. So how do we gain access to Apex in this application management? Well, you're going to need to go to what user you want to give that access to. So if I go to my staff, and I'm just going to search myself, pull up my record. In your staff profile, under your user access, is this link right here called Application Access. So if you're like, nobody's ever been given access to Apex to be able to install any of these reports, or I have users that have and I need to turn it off, or I've got new users who are coming on board that need to be added, this is where you will do it. There is this, if you don't have access, you're going to have none of this down here at the bottom. But what you will see is this Oracle Application Express account, what we call Apex, and you'll see that you have a checkbox right here. Once you check this box, it will pop up this area down here, which it will bring a username in, and that username is going to be whatever the username is in the actual admin access and role. So if you are a Google SSO district, for example, or a Microsoft district where it has kind of that hidden string of characters back there because it has to pre-populate something in that field, then that's going to be your username. And so you'll just kind of have to remember that. You can always come back to this page and see it. It will then have two blanks for you to put a password in to confirm a password. Now, when you put this password in there, it is not going to be the password that you keep once you get into Apex. You will be required to change your password upon first login. So if you're just for the first time going in and giving yourself Apex access, then create some password, admin 12345, something easy that'll get you in so that once you log in, you can then update your password to what you want it to be with strength and security. Now, I also get this question a lot. Once I get over into Apex, if I forgot my password, there is a link over there to reset your password, but it does not work because we're not working inside of the Apex application to that degree. So if you ever forget what your password is, or some user forgets what their password is, here is how you reset it. You come back to their staff page, you uncheck this box right here, and you submit the page. So basically you take their application access away, submit it. Then you come back and you check that box again, which is going to open these fields up with two blanks for password and confirm password, and you can just put it back to admin12345, tell them to log in, and change it once they log in. So there's not technically a reset password that we use in here. You have to take the access away, submit it, give the access back, open those password fields back up, and submit it again so that they can then change their password. Now, once you have access to this Apex Application Express, how do we go into it? Well, there's not a page inside of SIS. It is a URL that you will have to know of how to get into it. So if I were to open up another tab, the page that we get to for Apex, back all the way up to the powerschool.com, you put a colon 8443/ORDS. That is the URL that you have to know to get you to this Oracle Application Express page. Now, for those of you who go to this page quite a lot, because I see I'm looking through the participant list, got quite a few of y'all in here who are the district admins who are installing these reports every week. One thing that I would highly suggest you do to make your life easier instead of having to type that in every time is to actually go in here and create a custom link to Apex. So let me show you how to do that in case you are wanting to do that to make it easier for you. So I'm going to come up here to the search bar, type in custom, and I will see this custom links under system management. So you need to decide where you want this link to be for Apex in here. I want it to be in data and reporting. When I come in here, I'd like to have Apex in the list right here so that I could have just go to my data and reporting, go to Apex, and it take me to that screen and not have to remember what that URL is every time. Most of you probably know it by heart if you've been doing this over and over, but this just makes it easier. So inside, come on, get out of there, of my custom links, I'm going to go down here and say, all right, I want it to be under data and reporting. I'm going to come over here to the three dots under data and reporting, and I'm going to say add a link to data and reporting. So what do I want my title to be? Well, I want it to be Apex. Well, then I've got to put what the exact URL is. So you're going to take from your whole thing all the way up to the ORDS, just like what we had to type in a while ago. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste this right over here. So it's your district cocs.powerschool.com :8443 /orgs. What do you want it to do? Well, I want it to open it up in a new tab. And I'm just going to say place that link first because I do want it to come because I'm alphabetical order. Now, if you wanted it to come after dashboard, after data management, at the very bottom of this, you could say place it after and choose what to put it after. It's completely up to you of where you want this to live inside of here. So I want it to be at the first link on the data and reporting once I do that flyout. So I'm going to click add link. We're going to let this load. All right, it has successfully been added, so I'm going to refresh my screen. And now when I go to data and reporting, notice that I have a link to Apex up here at the top so that I don't have to remember that URL each time. So now I can stay within SIS, go to Apex, and it's just going to open me up another tab that brings me straight to that overall Application Express window. So how do I get into Application Express? Well, you do have to know your workspace. So for all of us, our workspace is capital B, capital S for PowerSchool, PS. Your username is, again, that username that you saw over on your staff record on that Application Express area. So for me, Stacy Royster. You put in your password. Oh, I just reset mine. I just remembered that. And I will tell you, it will lock yourself out, like it'll go through this countdown if you put in the wrong credentials. So keep that in mind as well. And again, this reset password that you see right there does not work. So you notice my password it's time to change because it will prompt you to change it every so often inside of here. So I'm going to put my password in, put in a new password. And apply the changes. Now I'm in. So this is the part of Oracle where all the building is done inside of it. So if you are one of those coders who go in here to build this, you are very familiar with this. But if you're just the person who's going to take those reports that we have placed on that spreadsheet and you've downloaded those SQL files and we're going to come in here and install them, here's what we do. We're going to come in here to App Builder and click on App Builder. When App Builder is clicked, you have two choices. You have PowerSchool 100, you have PowerSchool 200. Now I'm going to tell you, we have very specific let me get all these out. In these directions right here, it very explicitly tells you what you need to, oops, let me get on the enterprise report one, off of this one. It tells you very explicitly to click on the 100. Do not click on the 200 because that is where PowerSchool puts their reports. Your reports will always go under the 100. So if you ever forget, please refer back to this document right here so that it will show you which one of these to click on. So if I click on PowerSchool 100, I'm going to come over here to export and import, and I'm going to choose to import a file. So I just downloaded those two reports that I wanted to update. So I'm going to choose the file. So I know one of them is the CTE declaration and credential type. That was one to update. This was a new one. So I'm going to click on this one. So remember, I know that this is one that I'm updating. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to take the defaults all the way through and click next, and I'm going to click install page. It's going to give you a very scary message. Ooh, confirm replace page. You need to know if you're expecting for this to go in as a new report or as an updated report, because if it is an updated report, you're always going to receive this page. It's going to say, hey, there's already a report with this same number. They do it by number, not name here in Apex, that exists. Are you sure you want to replace it? Because once you replace it, there's no undo button. You can't undo this. So in this case, yes, I want to replace it. So I'm going to click replace page. Now from here, you can actually run the page and it will go run the report for you, but I don't want you to do that from here. We've got to do some other steps for our users, because all we've done now is put this report inside of Apex. Now, if I've got another report, I'm just going to come back here to Oracle. I'm going to go through it again at Builder 100, import again. Choose my other file. So that secondary file that I had was the 8th grade beta. If you did not have it, and I will tell you, I've already got this in Apex here, but if this was a brand new report that I had not installed before, then when I hit this install page, it's just going to do this, page installed. Okay, so actually it hadn't been installed in this one, so it's brand new for me. So this page is installed. Now, what that does when you get these added into Apex here is it adds it, get off these user access roles, to the queue to be published. So for those who've been given the Manage Enterprise Reports access, they now have these reports listed over here that they can choose to publish for all the users in the district. Now, there's two things to keep in mind here. If it's a brand new report, so we know the 8th grade beta report that I just installed was a brand new report. Then to publish a brand new report, you're just going to come to add. You're going to select that report out of the list. So there it is there, and choose which category you want it to go in. So I'm going to go put it in, let's say grades, or maybe it's something for my counselor. So I'm going to go and put it in my counselors, and I'm going to say publish. And again, if I want a description, I would type my description in that box right there for the users. You could even grab the description off of the reports page, because we do give a little description area on each one of these. So if I wanted to go back to the top and just say copy this and come over here to Enterprise Reports and put that in the description, then I can do that and hit save. So I put that in the counselor area. So if I go down to counselors, I will now see this new report that I can run with the description that I just placed in there. So that's for a new report. If it is an updated report, so for example, I added that did I add the career tech one? I thought I did. Well, I think it's already updated in there, so it's not going to go to the list. But anyway, let's say it's one of these others right here. If it is an updated report, then what you have to do is come find the old report in the list. So I'm going to pretend this is transfer out. Remove this published report from the list. Come to the add page, and then add the new report in, putting it back wherever it is that you want it to be published to. When you install an updated report in Apex, it does not, it updates the report. So you could go run it and it's going to give you the right version of the report. However, it does not update the name in this list. It used to years ago, but about 2 years ago, that functionality stopped working. And now you actually have to unpublish the report and republish it for the updated name to come up to the list. That's going to impact you in two ways. It's going to, if you don't have the updated name in the list, then when you come to our Alabama page, it's going to show that it's not updated, even though it is updated. When you click to go into the report, it will actually give you the updated version of the report and still run the updated version, but it won't show it as being reported or updated on this list if you have not updated by republishing. So always remember to do that very last step for these updated reports, which is unpublish, come to add, and republish it back in with the new updated name. The updated version is there as soon as you install it into Apex, but the name needs to be updated too, and you do that through that publishing trick. So do we have any questions so far on the security, the renaming, or the importing of these reports inside of Apex? Let me pause right there to see if anyone has any questions. Feel free to put them in chat. And remember, y'all are free to type into chat as we go along here. Y'all being awfully quiet today. All right, no questions coming in. So now that we have the reports in and you have determined security of these reports, let's kind of talk about some of the functionality within these reports. And guys, every report is slightly different, but they have common ways to use them. So let's go through and look. I'm going to add in this Dragonfly report. I'm going to put it in my counseling report and I'm going to publish it. So since it's one of our newer ones, let's go take a look. I want to show you kind of some different looks of all of these. So I've published it so I can come here now as a user who has access to this counseling section and run this report. Now, a lot of these reports, when Scott builds them out, gives you choices of student groups you might want to use, or we might start you out with a graph where you can start filtering them within there. So I can say, do I want to look at all students or just those that are athletes or non-athletes? So you can kind of use this report in multiple ways. Right now it is defaulted to the athletes. So what this report is doing is it's giving me all of the athletes. So anybody who's got that checkbox for athletes on the AL custom page check. And it is taking a look at their historical grades because that is what we send to Dragonfly each night. It is putting anything in red that might be a potential issue. So in this case, I have course numbers that are missing. Well, Dragonfly looks at the course numbers to validate that it is a legit state course number. So if you have a student who transfers in or you're manually entering transcripts from, let's say, Georgia, you need to make sure that you put what Alabama course number you are kind of giving them credit for taking over in Georgia so that we can do that translation, or Dragonfly can do that translation to determine athletic eligibility inside of there. So this is going to tell you anybody who might not have the right course number on there, or if you were taking a dual enrollment class and the only thing you have it tagged to is the college credit and you've not given the credit type for whichever core it is. So for example, this pre-cal algebra and trig is going to be a math. You are wanting them to get math credit for that as well. When it comes to eligibility, you'll need to make sure this historical grade is CC, MTH. And so it's making you look at your historical grades to make sure they have been set up correctly for your students for Dragonfly reading. Now, when it comes to these reports, this actions button right here, and again, it does not matter which report you are running, they all have this action button on them. The first thing that I tell everybody is when you're looking at enterprise reports, because you're displayed with a spreadsheet. Most of the time, these spreadsheets can literally be hundreds of columns of data, but we're not going to display every column of data right out of the box to you because that's too overwhelming. So I always tell people the first time you go run an enterprise report, please come to the actions and select columns to see what other data have we given you in this report that you can actually go through and look at to see, do I need it as part of this? Because maybe I need to run this report and I need to separate it out by grade level to give it to different people within the school to ask some questions inside of there. So notice when I hit the select columns, I do have some more information over here that I can pull into this report. So maybe I do need the grade level. So I'm going to click on grade level and I'm going to click on this right arrow. Ooh, can't talk. And notice it puts grade level over here to the right. The multiple arrows will move everything over. The single arrows will move one. And just like I move something to the right, I can move something off the report because maybe I don't need to know, what school it is. That's not important to me right now. So I can move that off. So whatever you would like to see there, you hit apply and it will adjust these reports for you. So now I can see grade level is on there and the school is gone. Also look for hyperlinks within there because hyperlinks or magnifying glasses mean that you can drill even further into the data. So for example, on this student right here, their SSID, notice I got lots of issues. It looks like I had a manually entered transcript and nobody put any course numbers in on this student. If I click on that SSID, because it is hyperlinked, it is going to take me to another page of data that I am portrayed with, and quite a few of these we'll drill down even further. So in this case, when Scott built the report, he built a direct link from this so that it would open up that stored grade, and you could go make that change to that immediately, save it, come back, refresh the report, and the student would come off. Now again, that's one example. Let me get rid of some of these tabs of how a report is run. Let me scroll down to a different report. Let's take a look at the ALSDE base cohort CCR FAFSA report. Just to show you that there is a different way to run reports, we do have some reports that are graphic reports for you. So this is kind of a cumulative report that we look at for our students to see, you know, who's got everything that they need to have done for graduation. So we've got that students making sure that they are in the base cohort. Who doesn't even have a cohort set? That's a huge issue. You've got to make sure students have the right cohort. Who has completed a CCR? Who has completed the FAFSA for this year? And I can pick which cohort year so I know what I'm looking at. So let's say that I'm going for, you know, the 23-24 year. I picked that year, and it's going to tell me, oh, I got no people with the CCR. I've got, if I change it to 25-26, nobody with a CCR entered. It's got how many? 2, no scores on FAFSA. So you can absolutely go in here and choose which year you want to look at for the cohort year. And so now I've got some data entered. I can see who has cohort entered, who has not, who's done financial literacy, who is not. If I want to know who these people are, I can filter for any of these. So maybe I'm going to look at CCR and I need to know who has not gotten a CCR entered. I can click on that part of the graph, and it's going to display that data down here in the chart. So in these charts, it is telling me for these filtered students, those 7 that were in that selection, notice I've got zeros across the board for AP attainment, ACT attainment, military, CTE completer, career tech, and so forth. So you can actually, anytime you see graphs and charts, click on the view of the filtered chart to see the data behind that. Let me reset this. And I'm back to my overall view of it. If I want to know who these 39 students are that are CTE completer, I could click on that and go to it as well. Notice I have different views up here. I have dashboard selected now. I could just go to the raw report. And now I'm presented with my spreadsheet view of it. Now, with this spreadsheet view, it's just like an Excel spreadsheet where you can work with this in multiple ways. If you want to come and check what columns might we be able to add, notice we've given you all this other information: enroll status, entry dates, exit dates, gender, school information, race information, because maybe you need to know breakdown of race of every student who is a CTE completer, and grade level and county that they live in, or who knows what else. You can come over here and take off anything you don't need and conform any of these reports to anything you might need. So if I didn't need, let's say, all of this, because I'm going to turn this into a CTE completer report, I'm going to move all of this back over, and I'm going to pull over race, and I'm going to pull over county just to make a random report, and I'm going to hit apply. So now I'm looking at all of my students who had, I want to look at CTE completer and want to look at race. Well, notice I haven't actually told it what I want to do with CTE completer. So I've got two ways that I can filter this. When it comes to these headers, they are all filterable. You can click on them, and very similar to Excel, it will tell you what values are all in the column. So if I said, I want to see everybody who's got a checkbox of 1, it'll tell me I've only got 1 kid that's been marked as a CTE completer. Now, another option, notice once I choose that filter, it puts it up here in this little kind of funnel view right here. If I'm like, nope, I don't want to see that, I want to go back to all of them. Another way that you can filter is through this actions button. You can actually build out the filters kind of verbally. So if I said, oh, I want everybody with a grade level greater than 10. So this is going to be my 11th and 12th graders. Hit apply, and it's going to filter that, and again, give me my little funnel filter up here. So you can play around with the filters, you can play around with format, lots of different things. You can do control breaks, you can highlight. What was I doing last week on the Career Tech webinar? I showed them how to do a control break on the CTE completer report that we've built so that you can kind of look at it student by student to make it a little bit easier on the eyes. So lots of different things that you can do, and guys, you can't break these. You cannot break these reports. So go through, format it, filter it however you want to. And if you get it in a format that you really like, you can actually save the report. So there is this save a report feature right here that allows you to name it. So I'm going to call this CTE completer marked list. So this tells me everybody that I have marked in the SIS as a CTE completer. Now, I can choose to make this public, which means anybody else in the district can see it and edit this. Just keep that in mind. Or I can just keep it for me. So when I hit apply to keep it for me, then notice up here, this little drop down changed. You then will get a drop down of the primary report, which will be the report as it came to you from the beginning. And then you'll also have a list of your report so that if you went through a lot of filtering and kind of manipulation of the headers and stuff to get the data that you want, you don't have to go in and refilter that every single time you log back into these reports. If you save that report, then the next time you come to the report, you can easily just drop down that list, click it, and it will go back and put all that on there. Here I've got one that's looking at college and career ready ACT. So this must be everybody who has earned ACT attainment, and sure enough, it's everybody who's got a 1 in there. So you can make these reports very personable through some of these actions that are built into the report for you. A lot of people ask, can you download reports? Well, again, in this actions button, there is a download section. In this particular report, I can download it as a CSV, which you could open up in Excel, or you can download it as a PDF. So most of these reports are ones that you can export out, and some of them even have subscriptions where you can subscribe and get emailed reports for this report here. All right, let's go through and take a look at another report. So I know a lot of people right now, especially elementary, are looking at literacy reports because everybody's making sure they've got their pathways to promotions. Sometimes you'll come into reports where you have buttons at the top where we have multiple reports built into one. So this is a report that displays the Literacy Act information, everything that you're entering on that Legislative Acts Literacy Act tab inside of SIS. If I want to look at all the dyslexia information that has been entered, we give you some graphs for are they in an intervention? Have they been screened? Were they identified? So it's going based on the data you've put on there. And here it gives you kind of the spreadsheet view that you can go through, filter, and look at anything that you want to look at. A lot of people are looking at promotion and retentions options right now. So we can look back at last year for grade 3 and see, did I have promotion and retention options entered? I could look at, those who have information. So I could come here to filter and show me those with promotion options that are not null. So who has data filled in? Well, apparently I don't have any. Oh, well, that's for 25, 26. Shouldn't have any, but let's look at 24, 25 for last year. Oh, looks like I probably don't have any in here either. So you would go through and you would filter for whichever grade level that you have. You don't have to have any grade level. I can always keep submitting to see if I have any information. Really thought I had some in here, but let's see. Nope, guess I hadn't imported any for this year. So you would be able to go through and see those inside of it, because I know a lot of people are looking to see who does have null data in there, who does not have null data, and be able to find that information. So again, you can't break these. Go through, click those buttons to see the data as it displays. Now, guys, there are tons of reports inside of here. We could go on and clicking into each one of these. Let's see, what's another good one to look at? Let's look at EL students. Maybe I want a list of all of my EL students and their information inside of here. So I do have an EL students report. which will tell me what status they are in, because a lot of times people are wanting to know what status they have put in there, and you might not have a report built in special programs for this. Well, in this case, I can run the EL list straight from inside of here, and I'm given the information. Are they EL, what the program entry date is, and what their EL status is. And if I say, oh, I just want to look at these 3 who have exited their first year monitoring. So again, I can go through and filter through here by clicking on that very small little bar. Now I'm looking at those 3 kids. Or I could have filtered itself by looking at the EL status and selecting out of the list that would have been there. So the biggest thing is that we really need districts to kind of go through and look at the entire list of these reports, because there are lots of good reports inside of here that a lot of people don't realize we have. A lot of them are error checking reports. For example, this special programs receives mail contacts. People were wanting a report to say who all has got the receives mail and who might be missing the receives mail. So it will tell me, this kind of information right here. Alternate assessment participants, lots of different special education EL information that you could put in whichever section that you wanted to. Schedule check for repeat courses. Do I have kids who are taking courses? Now, sometimes you run into this. You go to run a report and it says, hey, this is one that really can only be run from the school level, which means you'd have to change your point of view, not run it at a district level, go run it at a school level. So let's flip over to a school level and take a look at a few of them that way. So again, if I go data and reporting, reports and enterprise reports, and let's scroll back to that same area. Schedule check for repeat courses. A lot of times we try to give you like a little bit of information to let you know what this report is going to be about. So in this case, it's telling me, if a cell is red, check a course, a grade restored for this course in a previous academic year. I can choose to look at for whichever grade levels that I want to do. I can say show school schedule issues. And now it tells me, oh, I've got Mickey Mouse here who've got some issues. So if cell is green, course has not been taken in previous academic year. So it'll tell me here blue, course is taken this year and grades are stored in an earlier term this academic year. So we kind of give you the color bands. You also, this is one of those where I said, if you've got the little magnifying glass, you can click into it and it'll take you to even more information. Here we can see it's going to pull up the schedule. So now I can kind of look at what Mickey has been taken and why we might see a red or a blue or a green or a white, so that you know if action needs to be taken on any of those schedules. Expanded student schedules. Students who are enrolled in classes but not enrolled in school. Check PowerScheduler requests. In other words, are students requesting classes that they've already received credit for? Things for you to look at such as that. CMP reports. This one is a great one right here. Now, for some of you who are CEP, it might not give you much information because it's DC and paid students. But for those who are not, who have free reduced statuses, you would see all of your different statuses inside of here. I'll actually be talking about this report next week at the CMP conference down in Point Clear. DC count, so you can see how many students are coming in as identified as direct search students. And then here is a report that you could print out. Now, again, sometimes when y'all are looking at grant information, you're needing to give information on things such as this, like your DC status, your free reduced lunch status. And sometimes you need additional information on your students. So we give you a lot of those pertinent fields, your gender, your race, your grade level, school ID, things such as that, that you could pull into here to help use with some of your grant reports that you might need. So lots of reports inside of here. Like we showed a while ago, 170 of them, 172, something like that of them that we have in here. Home language survey. So as you enter in your home language information, so if I look at this year, all of my kids, it's going to give me all the information on the home language survey. We even give you a graph of what other languages are spoken that are not English inside of your school and or your district, depending on where you're opening this up from, and even which teachers are teaching the students whose home language is not English inside of here. Now, notice that when I open this report, we do have the primary report here, which means anytime you see that, that means there's other reports. So notice I have actually created some private reports on this one. This just goes to show you that I can always come back to these reports and reshuffle for whatever I have. Notice here, I actually did a group by and count for how many of the different home languages that I have inside of here. So you can do different kinds of counts on them. You can create pivot tables. You can create all kinds of charts and graphs based on the spreadsheet data that you have, and I can flip back and forth between them. A lot of the health reports, we've given you kind of that kind of information. So like if I go into the health concern report, for example, here is a report of all of my students and any of the health concerns that have been entered on them. I do have the primary report up here, and when I go, I notice I have different default reports that we have built out for you, not necessarily private ones that you have built out, but I can look at my chart, my concern totals. So if I want to see a chart of all of those concerns, I can look at it in a chart view and see what all we have there. If I want to look at counts of conditions, I can see those different counts inside of there. So I always say once you install a new report or find out that there is a new report available, go and investigate it. Go see what all information is inside of there. We're going to try to put the best description of one that we can in there. And you can then go through and pull information to your heart's desire. Tons of different reports. Out of school suspension attendance. Well, it's a student who's had out of school suspension assigned as an incident, but the attendance didn't get it entered, or vice versa. You've got an attendance record of OSS, but you don't have a discipline record reflecting that OSS. Things like that. I get calls all the time on Stacy, is there a report for check-ins and check-outs in here? What we tried to do with Enterprise Reports is build you all a report for everything that was not in the native system reports that came with PowerSchool outside of the box. So that's why we have so many of them. Skipping reports, posting attendance reports, teacher attendance. So this one right here, I know a lot of people love this because it shows your teachers who have not been posting attendance or who have been posting attendance. So if I pick September, it tells me how many times each one of my teachers have not taken attendance and which periods they did not post attendance for. So if you had to talk, personnel issues of saying, hey, this is, part of your obligation, so you could have that conversation with your teachers, just all kinds of different reports inside of here. So hopefully now you know how to adjust categories on reports if you choose to, how to assign someone access to the sections on this page. Remember, checking page permissions that they have access to this page. How to install a report, how to make sure you're a manager of the report so that you can add them in once you get them installed. How to log into Apex, install those reports into Apex to then come in here and publish them. So are there any questions that anyone has on the enterprise reports? Because other than really like deep diving into each and every one of these reports, that shows you the big overview of what enterprise reports are, how to get them into the system, how to make sure you have access to install them, how you make sure people have access to view them and run them inside of here. Any questions from anyone? I cannot believe not one question was asked during this whole webinar. Y'all are experts at this because we all run enterprise reports, right? Yes, Melissa, the base cohort CCR FAFSA is all based on what has been checked on that Alabama custom screen. It is reading verbatim what has been in there, which a lot of people will use that to help explain why they see things the way they do over in AIM. And I will send the recording of this out. I'll put it on the YouTube channel. I'll also put it on the Alabama PowerSchool site on the Enterprise Reports page so that everybody could see that. Daniel, I think there is one report that is showing under updates in PowerSchool. It will not clear for me. I think it's cross LEA. Make sure that you've unpublished it, Daniel, and republished it down and see if that clears. If not, let me know and I'll see if there's some kind of typo mismatch between there. Brian, should the data found here match the data name? It depends on which data you're talking about, Brian, because some of these reports pull all of the data and some of them do not. So some of them only look at enrolled students. AIM looks at things through different lenses, so it would just depend on exactly which data you're wanting to look at. Yeah, Daniel, just shoot me an email on that one and we'll take a look at that name. Melissa, so a human would have to go to student records and check CTE completer. That is correct. So if I go to Mickey Mouse, that base cohort CCR is all on who you have checked information for on the Alabama compliance page. It is not telling you who is a CTE completer. It is telling you who you have checked as a CTE completer. Not a problem. Oh, you're very welcome, Adam. All right, any other questions from anyone? And remember, if y'all ever have suggestions for reports that you would like to see, feel free to pass those along because we add to it weekly. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.